James Atkins was the first African-American mayor of Kyle, Texas, who served from 1999 to 2003. The name sounds familiar because James Atkins and Greg Clark Park were named after this former city leader. Mayor Atkins passed away in early 2016.
Mattie Broadfoot Welch was Kyle's first elected African-American city council member. Welch was also involved with the Skyview Cemetery Association, which maintains the historic grounds of the 5-acre, 125-year-old Skyview Cemetery, a designated historic Texas cemetery.
Ollie Wilburn Hargis Giles. In the early 1990s, Giles and two of her relatives discovered the Kyle Pioneer Family Cemetery. In 2007, Giles successfully petitioned for a change of name from the Old Slave Cemetery to the Kyle Pioneer Family Cemetery. It has since been designated a historic Texas cemetery, followed by the award of a historical marker. Giles passed away in 2019.
Johnny Armstead was the founder of the Calaboose African American History Museum. Armstead's goal when she started the museum in 1997 was to preserve and honor the memories and contributions of African Americans in Hays County. Armstead passed away in 2008.
Eddie Durham, a San Marcos native, was considered a pioneer of the electric guitar. Though the story of Eddie designing or discovering the electric guitar is still in question, he experimented with the instrument in the late 1920s.
Philip Randolph was a labor activist and civil rights leader. Randolph organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first successful African-American-led labor union. Randolph is credited with having a hand in the Fair Employment Act of 1941, banning discrimination in war industries, and Executive Order 9981, ending racial discrimination in the armed forces. Randolph was a co-founder of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, an organization credited with coordinating a national legislative campaign on behalf of every major civil rights law since 1957. He was also heavily involved in organizing the 1963 March on Washington.
Curt Flood was an American professional baseball player and activist, born in Houston. During his 15 years in the league, Flood was a 3-time All-Star, a Gold Glove winner for 7 consecutive seasons, and batted over 306 seasons. Off the field, Flood was a pivotal figure in sports labor history when he refused to accept a trade to another team, leading him to legally challenge the MLB's reserve clause, which stated the rights to players were retained by the team upon contract expiration, all the way to the Supreme Court. Though Flood ultimately lost, his actions spurred the eventual elimination of the reserve clause 6 years later, the Curt Flood Act of 1998, and the 10-5 rule, or Curt Flood Rule.
Nannie Burroughs was a civil rights activist, educator, and labor leader who founded the National Training School for Women and Girls, the first school in the nation to provide vocational training for African Americans in 1909. She also founded the National Association of Wage Earners, an organization that sought to standardize and improve living conditions for women, particularly migrant workers.
Barbara Charlene Jordan was a lawyer, educator, and politician who was a leader in the civil rights movement. She was the first African American elected to the Texas Senate and the first Southern African American woman elected to the United States House of Representatives. Jordan was best known for her eloquent opening statement at the House Judiciary Committee hearings during the impeachment process against Richard Nixon, and as the first African American and first woman to deliver a keynote address at the 1976 Democratic National Convention.
J. Philip Crawford was the lead attorney in the case that ended segregation at Southwest Texas State College. Until 1963, Black students were not allowed to attend the university because of a white-only provision in the college charter. Through Crawford's legal efforts, 5 young women attended Southwest Texas State College in the spring of 1963. That same year, Crawford became an assistant attorney general for the state of Texas, the first African American to hold the position.
Juanita Craft was an American activist and politician who was heavily involved in the civil rights movement. Craft, born in Round Rock, joined the NAACP in 1935, eventually becoming the Dallas NAACP membership chairman in 1942. She helped to organize 182 branches of the NAACP over 11 years. In 1944, Craft became the first Black woman in Dallas County to vote in a public election. In 1955, She organized a protest of the State Fair of Texas against its policy of admitting blacks only on Negro Achievement Day. Craft also worked to integrate the University of Texas Law School and the Dallas Independent School District.
Bill Pickett was the first African American inducted into the National Rodeo Hall of Fame. Pickett, born in Williamson County, left school in the 5th grade to work as a ranch hand in the late 1800s, where he learned to ride horses and watch the longhorn steers of Texas. He invented the technique of bulldogging, which involved leaping from his horse and wrestling the steer to the ground by his horns. His tricks and horsemanship soon earned him popularity at local county fairs, leading him to eventually join the 101 Ranch Wild West show with the likes of Buffalo Bill and Will Rogers. Pickett would go on to tour the world and appear in early motion pictures.
Born in Mineola, Texas, Rufus Cornelius Hickman was a photographer and American photojournalist that documented the civil rights movement. As a soldier in World War II, Hickman learned how to take and develop photographs, eventually becoming a war photographer. After the war, he had several roles in the photojournalism industry, including circulation editor for the Dallas Star-Post. Hickman documented unequal conditions in black and white Texas schools for the NAACP, aiding in black Texans' long efforts to end segregation.
Jacob Fontaine was a formerly enslaved minister who was a part of the Wheatsville community in Austin, Texas. He founded the First Baptist Church on the same property that now holds the Austin History Center. He helped establish 6 new churches in the area and was instrumental in establishing the St. John Missionary Baptist Association. During Reconstruction, he established the Gold Dollar in 1876, one of the first black-run newspapers.